Extreme heat warnings across southeastern Australia, potential record-breaking temperatures, flooding continues in far north Queensland, and long-range tropical cyclone signals developing in the Coral Sea. That is what we were looking at. I've examined the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology. The forecast models, the pressure systems, and the situation is significant. Right now, conditions across the country are about as unstable as they get. Low pressure dominates almost everywhere. There is a single high pressure system out in the Indian Ocean, and that S about it. Everything else is sitting well below 1,012 hectopascals. The remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Luana are still sitting over central Western Australia. And here is what S interesting. For a system that S technically been downgraded, it S still holding together remarkably well. The satellite presentation looks more like an active cyclone than remnants. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are continuing right across Western Australia today. Further north, we've got tropical low 18U developing near the Queensland coast. This system has been on the radar for days now. It's sitting in the monsoon trough and it is pumping heavy rain into far north Queensland. More on that shortly. But the main story today is the heat. And when I say heat, I mean potentially record-breaking dangerous heat across Victoria, southern New South Wales, and parts of South Australia. Let me be clear about something. We don't use the term extreme heat wave lightly. This isn't exaggeration. This isn't clickbait. The Bureau of Meteorology has issued extreme heatwave warnings because that is exactly what we were dealing with. Here is the meteorology behind it. There's a weak cold front down in the Bass Strait sliding east into the South Pacific. Ahead of that front, there's a weak trough. And that trough is dragging air down from Central Australia, the traditionally hottest parts of the continent. The areas that regularly see some of the highest temperatures on Earth at this time of year, that superheated air is being funneled south into Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia, areas that are much more accustomed to milder conditions, and the temperature forecasts reflect just how extreme this is going to be. Mildura is forecast to reach 49 degrees Celsius today. Keep that number in mind. The previous Victorian record is 48.8 degrees. Very rarely, and I mean very rarely, do we see official Bureau forecasts exceed standing records. It happens only a handful of times, and today is one of those occasions. Melbourne's all-time January record of 45.2 degrees is also under threat. The convective forecast modelling is suggesting a top of 47 degrees in Melbourne. That might be slightly bullish, but even if the official reading comes in at 45 or 46, personal weather stations in the northwestern suburbs are going to hit 47 or 48 degrees without question. And with the urban heat island effect in the inner city, it's going to feel even hotter than that. If you are in Melbourne and you don't have air conditioning, or you worried about your air conditioner coping with these temperatures, you need to make alternative plans. Today is not the day to tough it out. Find a library, a shopping centre, a mate's place with reliable cooling. Anywhere but a house without air conditioning in 47-degree heat. This is a stinker. There's no other word for it, and you need to take it seriously. The difference between a 40-degree day and a 45-degree day is massive. It doesn't sound like much on paper, 5 degrees. But in reality, it's the difference between standing near a warm oven and sticking your face into an industrial blast furnace. 45 degrees and above is genuinely dangerous. Stay inside, stay hydrated. Avoid all strenuous physical activity, check on elderly neighbours, make sure your mates are coping, look after your pets and livestock. These aren't just guidelines. In these conditions, they're essential. The heat eases slightly as we head into Wednesday. Melbourne drops back to the high 20s, possibly low 30s. Still warm, but manageable compared to today. The northern parts of Victoria will remain stifling into the low 40s before a southerly change pushes through, but the heat doesn't disappear. It shifts. Thursday becomes South Australia S-turn. Areas around Lake Eyre and through the interior of South Australia are looking at 48, possibly 49 degrees. Some spots around Lake Torrens, Marie and Tarcoola could get close to 50 degrees. Friday continues the pattern. Another potential 50-degree day around Tarcoola. Ceduna hit 49.5 yesterday. They could go even warmer on Friday, or areas just north of Ceduna, because the sea breeze will arrive a bit earlier and push the heat slightly inland. The Eyre Peninsula will be copping extremely warm temperatures right through Friday. Then on Saturday, the heat draws back north into the more traditionally warm areas. But even then, we're still looking at very warm temperatures through South Australia. Continuing into Sunday and Monday, the heat shifts into New South Wales and Queensland. And that is actually a more normal pattern. High pressure in the Great Australian Bight pushing southerlies up through South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales. keeping things milder in the south while the north heats up. But this entire week, we're talking about 99th percentile temperatures. For context, heatwave warnings typically get issued around the 96th or 97th percentile. 99th percentile is where we enter record-breaking territory. And that S, exactly where Victoria, South Australia and New South Wales are sitting today, tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. Please stay safe, stay cool, stay hydrated. There's an outside chance of a few thunderstorms across southern Queensland later this arvo. Brisbane and the Gold Coast shouldn't see any storm activity, but further north, particularly inland from the Sunshine Coast up towards the Wide Bay region, a couple of storms might develop. Nothing severe, just isolated activity. Now let's talk about far north Queensland. The situation up there is very different. Heavy rain, flooding, road closures and more rain on the way. Tropical low 18U is sitting in the monsoon trough near the North Queensland coast. It's been pumping moisture onshore for days, and the rainfall totals reflect that. Some areas along the Cassowary coast have already received significant falls. The Bruce Highway is now closed just outside of Ingham due to flooding, so if you are travelling through that area, plan alternative routes or delay your trip. The Dalrymple Creek at Trebon is significantly elevated. This area floods regularly, so it's not unusual for this time of year, but it's currently 2.5 to 3 metres above minor flood level. The water is beginning to drop slowly, which is good news, but there is still a lot of water moving through the system. This is stock standard business as usual for Cape York and far north Queensland during the wet season. I'm not trying to make this sound like a massive weather event. It's not. But it is wet. Roads are closing, flooding is occurring in the usual spots, and more rain is on the way. Rainfall eases slightly today across the far north, but tonight and into early Wednesday morning, we are looking at another 100 to 300 millimetres possible through the Cassowary coast. There's a convergence zone building up near the Daintree rainforest as that monsoonal low pressure system intensifies. That S going to funnel moderate to heavy rain onshore through the Cassowary coast tonight. I expect significant rainfall accumulations to develop south of the Yarrabah Peninsula and Cairns. Areas like Innisfail, Tully, Mission Beach, Cardwell, Ingham and Halifax will likely see those heavy falls develop late tonight into early Wednesday morning. Rainfall clears off later Wednesday afternoon. You can see it beginning to ease and pull further north through Thursday. Maybe a couple of showers through Thursday and Friday for the Cassowary coast and the Daintree rainforest, but nothing too significant after that. The Northern Territory is a different story entirely. We're expecting a very enhanced monsoonal flow to build through the end of this week into the weekend. As the remnants of tropical low 18U move up into the top end, wet weather kicks in from Friday and persists right through the weekend, possibly extending out to Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Now, keep in mind, this is monsoonal rainfall. It's very difficult to predict exactly how much is coming through, how heavy it'll be, how persistent it'll be. This is more likely to be shower-based activity rather than continuous rain. Through the top end, we're looking at a couple of days of steady showers. It'll be hit or miss in some locations, but by the time it's all said and done, widespread falls between 80 to 200 millimetres are expected. Isolated areas could see 300 to 350 millimetres. If it comes through as showers, we'll see some significant falls around the Darwin area. If it's more rain band type activity, it'll probably slide a bit further north. But either way, significant falls are expected, particularly towards the western edge of the top end. Darwin itself is looking at around 300 millimetres over the period. Similar amounts through the Gulf of Carpentaria. The forecast models are fairly consistent, all things considered. The GFS is calling for some particularly heavy amounts, up to 1 metre of rainfall in some spots over this 5-day period. That is probably a bit excessive. The ICON model is putting the bulk of the rainfall in the Gulf of Carpentaria, but the message is clear. We are looking at half-decent rainfall accumulations as we head into the middle of next week. There is also a possibility this system becomes a tropical cyclone, particularly if it heads out towards the Indian Ocean. Long-range signals are showing potential cyclone development. But at this stage, I'm not putting too much weight on that. It's too far out. Too much uncertainty, which brings me to the long-range tropical cyclone outlook. And I'll be honest, there are some signals worth watching, particularly into the first week of February. That system we've been monitoring in the Coral Sea looks like it might be a bust. Looking at the models right now, it appears to skirt around New Caledonia and then get absorbed by the jet stream. That would suggest something else might develop further north in the Coral Sea. The European model is showing something developing near the far north Queensland coastline. But this is a very fresh signal, very new. So we're not taking much notice of it for the next couple of days, but one thing is becoming clear. the Coral Sea is likely to see tropical or tropical cyclone activity, especially through the second week of February, possibly through the first week as well. The forecast models are starting to show some consistency around something that may head for the North Queensland coastline, but at this point there isn't too much weight we can give it. It is still a long-range signal, a trend we re-monitoring. Not a hard forecast. That won't become clear for at least another couple of days. Conditions are still very favourable out in the Coral Sea. Sea surface temperatures are sitting at 29, pushing 30 degrees, particularly as you get closer to the Solomon Sea and Vanuatu. In the Gulf of Carpentaria, it's basically bath water. Too warm to swim in comfortably. 31 pushing 32 degrees closer to the North Queensland coastline. Those warm sea temperatures make any tropical cyclone that develops more prone to producing heavy rainfall, which is concerning because if a tropical cyclone does head for the Queensland coastline, particularly if it has a large system, it'll bring a boatload of rainfall. And flooding becomes a real problem. But again, long-range signals are not set in stone. We'll keep close tabs on the situation and provide updates as things develop. So to summarise, today through Friday, extreme heat across southeastern Australia. Record-breaking temperatures possible in Victoria and South Australia. This is dangerous heat. Take it seriously. Stay inside, stay cool, stay hydrated. Far North Queensland, heavy rain continues today and tonight. Flooding in the usual spots. Road closures. More rain through the Cassowary coast tonight into Wednesday morning before easing later Wednesday. Northern Territory, enhanced monsoonal flow builds from Friday. Widespread rain through the top end continuing through next week. Significant accumulations expected. And long range, we re-monitoring tropical cyclone signals in the Coral Sea. Possibly something developing in the first or second week of February. Too early for specifics, but worth keeping an eye on. Check on your mates. Look after elderly neighbours. Stay informed through the Bureau of Meteorology. And if you're in the extreme heat zones, don't underestimate these temperatures. That is the forecast. Stay